When I started college a couple of years ago, I remember struggling with brain fog all the time. I would come to class in the morning and already be tired, but after lunch, I would literally go missing in action every single day. And I used to think that it was due to some kind of disease like ADHD. I was different from other people and just unable to focus, and I even wanted to go on medication and stuff. But my dad, fortunately, told me that I was just a dumbass and ADHD is not my problem. So I started looking for a different answer, and what I've developed during the past 3 years is an easy to follow, minimalist, nutrition based productivity system, which is only based on 3 main steps. And in today's video, I'm gonna teach you what exactly I learned and how to make this sustainable. Because what I've seen with a lot of people talking about nutrition is that what they preach is basically unattainable for reasons of budget, time limitations, or just overwhelming complexity. But as a student who just moved from a different country to France to study engineering and had to learn French for this, I found myself in a situation where I didn't have any of these. And this simple system changed everything. It allowed me to get rid of most of my brain fog, finally allowed my brain to function on 3 different languages, and most crucially, I could stick to this system for years now, which is why it's so powerful. In today's video, I'm gonna guide you through the exact 3-step system which made me go from a mediocre student to the top 1% student of my entire year of electrical engineering. Alright, the first step, as always, may appear the most difficult, but trust me, because it is the basis of any nutrition-based productivity advice. And the first step is buy single ingredient foods and cook your own meals. Now, you've already heard how metabolic health is at the basis of everything in your body. Everyone already said this, and I don't need really to add anything to this. Obviously, junk food is bad for your health, and obviously it's going to be bad for your productivity because everything is based around your metabolic health. Now, the reason why I put this into the first step is actually not metabolic health itself, although this is very important, but rather a different reason why you should buy whole foods and cook yourself. And that reason is control. You see, when you buy foods that are already ready to eat, you don't really control what's inside of them. You just buy the prepackaged thing, and it contains sugars, some protein and fat, and you don't know really what you buy. At least I don't know any single person who buys junk food and actually tracks every single ingredient in it. So if you want to follow through with the steps, and especially with the step 2, which I'm going to talk about later, you need to know what you buy and what foods you eat. Switching to single ingredient foods would allow you to control what you eat at any point of the day. You will know how much protein, how much fat, and how much carbs you consumed. But as a student, you may argue that you don't have time to buy and cook your food. But let me assure you that after I started actually investing more time into cooking, the return on investment from the cleared brain fog was so huge that I actually had more free time at the end, while my fellow students would spend like 2, 3, 4 hours every single day studying engineering. I would come home, go to the gym, then come back and cook some nice meal which is well balanced for productivity, and then I would actually work much better the next day. And because I work better, I don't have to study as much, and I ended up with more free time. And also, cooking is just nice. So what you should do is get rid of all of that junk sugar from your cupboard, go to the store and buy some meat, some dairy, some eggs, some vegetables and fruit, come back home and find the recipe that works. Actually, when you just start cooking, it's very easy. Making a steak is just as simple as turning on the pan, putting the meat onto it and waiting for it to turn it, and that's it. This of course does not mean that you cannot use any multiple ingredient foods. For example, I really like buying tomato sauce, like this basic just tomato, basil and some salt thing. It's very popular in Europe because it's France and Italy and tomato sauce everywhere. But I really like to use it in my dishes, and it's obviously much more fast in terms of preparation than just making your own tomato sauce. Step 1 already solves a huge part of the problem of brain fog, but step 2 is gonna take it to a whole new level. And the step 2 is schedule your macros. You see, most people already know that there's protein and fat and carbohydrates, and you need to eat a certain amount of each to stay healthy, but most people don't realize that you need to eat them at different times of the day. For example, if I have the bulk of my intellectual work in the morning, I will not eat carbs before that. And the reason for this is that after years I figured out finally that carbs are not good for productivity. You may have heard from your mom who was saying that you eat sugar because your brain runs on sugar and it's gonna work better. But after years of studying like that, I've realized that it's not good advice. And the reason for that is while your brain indeed requires carbohydrates to work, it is not going to get them unless you do certain things. You see, your whole sugar regulation system was designed for physical work. So if you eat sugar, you need to exercise afterwards, otherwise the system is going to get dysregulated. And this is what's happening to everyone nowadays. You eat a huge bowl of cereal in the morning and then you don't move. And what's happening is that from all this sugar getting into your bloodstream, your pancreas starts to take it out. And when it takes it out, it takes too much because it's panicking from all the sugar. So now you've got not enough. And what happens when your blood sugar is too low? Your brain falls asleep. You're basically running on fumes now. So unless you do physical work or exercise right in the morning, there is no point in eating carbohydrates. And this is why my breakfast looks something like this. A cup of coffee without sugar, 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt, real Greek yogurt, not the chocolate chip one, and a small piece of 90% dark chocolate. And that's it. You see, you don't need to eat much at all to have a great breakfast. And I actually tried intermittent fasting and not eating anything at all, but I figured that eating this little breakfast is better than eating nothing because it's satisfying your hunger while still keeping the benefits of the intermittent fasting. I didn't notice any difference in terms of how I feel, except for I don't feel hunger anymore and I can focus on work. Now, if you're gonna exercise or do any kind of physical activity, I would recommend that you add sugar to it, but not ultra-processed sugar, but sugar in form of fruit or honey or berries, because these 3 things are really healthy for you and you can eat them. Don't just be afraid of the word sugar. If it contains sugar, it doesn't mean that it's bad for your health. But if you're doing intellectual work and not moving, you should skip sugar. Now, I also used to have a huge omelette made out of 5 eggs every morning, and even though that was good for muscle, it wasn't really great for your brain because you still take energy to digest that protein. And even though there is no sugar, you're still gonna be more brain foggy than if you ate a much smaller breakfast. So if intellectual work is your priority right now, you should reduce the size of your breakfast and also not eat that much protein, because protein, we're gonna get it later, which brings us to the next section, lunch. And for lunch I would usually have a piece of red meat and 5 eggs, or 5 eggs and chicken breast. And this would give me the majority of protein for the day. Together with that, I would usually have some kind of a quick salad made out of leafy greens. I really love rocket. I think it's one of the best. It's very Mediterranean, and you add to that some tomatoes, some mozzarella if you want, and most importantly extra virgin olive oil, which is a really important source of fats for your productivity. And to finish it off, I would usually have some carbs, but in form of fruit. I would not eat rice or potatoes or pasta, anything like that during lunch, because I still want to keep some of my brain power. But I still want to add some carbs because you need that energy. So I would finish it off with some apple or bananas, and that's it. And for the last meal of the day, I would likewise have a lot of protein, but I would also add more things to it. I would add some other carbohydrates. I can use potatoes, sometimes pasta, but mostly rice and buckwheat. Buckwheat is very popular in Russia and I really love its taste, and it's just basically a superfood. It's a super carb. It's still grains, but it doesn't have gluten. It's better than rice in terms of health, and it also tastes delicious. And it's usually during dinner time when I would actually start to have fun with my food. I would experiment with some spices, some new ingredients. I would try to make different dishes from around the world, and I would basically keep the same macro rules, but now have more freedom with carbs and how I cook the food. And this is a crucial part because I fell into the trap of always cooking for productivity, and I just didn't enjoy it. I'd always cook like chicken breasts and rice and broccoli, and I hated it so much. And also rice made me crash. I didn't enjoy it at all and I couldn't sustain it at all. But after I started cooking and having fun and actually discovering different cultures and being more open to other ingredients, I finally discovered a passion in cooking my food. So this is basically how my everyday works, and I usually try to stick as much to just 3 meals a day at the same time, because consistency here is king. Because when your body knows when to digest food and when to expect carbs and when to expect protein, you become much more efficient at doing that. And as you can see on this little chart that I made for you, the amount of carbs that I consume during the day gradually increases. So if you had to take one thing away from this video, make it this. Alright, let's go to the last step. The step number 3 is less about nutrition and food and more about how you process it. And in this step I'm gonna talk about movement. You see, there was a study that figured that just by taking a 10-minute walk after food intake, you can reduce your insulin problems by like 30%. There was basically a 30% an increase in insulin sensitivity, which is good for you, from just walking for 10 minutes after lunch. And this is what I would recommend, because your body was designed to move long distances, to eat food and then use the energy right away in physical form, not doing intellectual work all day. And this is why I usually do this. In the morning I don't eat much carbs, much protein or much fat, and the reason for that is because I'm not going to move. I'm going to sit and do deep work. But after lunch, right after I finished eating, I would go for a quick walk, which is usually 15 to 20 minutes, and come back home, and this is basically gonna prevent the majority of that crash that I used to have after lunch. You're probably familiar with this, but after you eat your lunch, you're basically kind of foggy for the next 3 to 4 hours, and no matter what you do with your diet, you're still gonna have some residual weakness. So what you could do to mitigate this afternoon crash is to help your body digest the food. And in order to do that, you could go for a small walk, usually 15 to 20 minutes, and that's gonna do basically 80% of it. Because you see, I'm gonna go into some nerdy details here, but basically your cells have mitochondria, and as you may know from your high school biology class, mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell, which means that they are the core of your energy production system. They are the power plant. But in order for them to function correctly, you need to get the food into your cells. And when you have a meal, you got food into your blood, but not necessarily into the cell. But when you start moving, you're gonna actually activate your cells, and your cells are gonna move sugar and energy and the food that you ate from bloodstream into the cells faster. And that is gonna allow your mitochondria to function properly, to reduce your blood sugar spike, because the sugar is gonna be taken into the cells, and it's gonna basically reduce your afternoon crash to a minimum. And then around 4 p.m. this is when I go for more intense exercise. So like after 3 to 4 hours after eating lunch, I would go to the gym and do my resistance training. So the next time you're done eating your lunch, just stand up and go for a quick walk. And you're gonna see just by how much you've reduced your afternoon fog. So this is basically my system, just 3 steps. I've been following it for years now. It's very easy to follow. It's very sustainable if you know how to have fun with your food. And this is so OP because it's basically the Pareto principle of eating healthy and having a productive life. And this is why I really hope that you can make use of it in your own life. Just remember to follow these 3 steps. Buy your own food, schedule your macros, and insert some kind of light exercise after eating. And then you will realize how easy it was to fix your brain fog.